Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining. So, what are we covering today? We're going to do a deep dive on BrianKnows or BrianKnowsAI. Actually, one of the first ones, I think, at the intersection of crypto and AI, and also talk about how Enso powers their on-chain capabilities. We will have a live demo of BrianKnows and an audience Q&A at the end. So, if anyone has any questions already now or throughout the live stream, you can already drop them in the comments. So on the call, we do have Orbolo from Brian, the CTO, and then we have Connor, the co-founder of Enso, and myself, Leonie, from the marketing side here at Enso. I think we can get started with a quick round of intros about the projects for people that don't know yet what BrianKnows and Enso are. Maybe you want to go ahead first, Orbolo.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I'm Orbulo, and I'm one of the founders and the CTO of Brian. And I've been working in the Web3 for the last 8 years. I have also worked in the Web2 as well, mainly for international scientific companies, and like also public administration for privacy projects here in my country, Italy. And then I've left basically my Web2 job to go like full time on Web3, doing like hacking and stuff. I've done a lot of hackathons, and one of these hackathons that I've did was the ITPAG hackathon in 2023, where Brian was born. And the idea behind like Brian and this kind of diff AI or whatever, I don't like that name, but the idea behind, like, for us was born because one of our founders and one of our friends, all the team, us at Brian, we are all like longtime friends since high school, middle school, and was is actually, it's not was, is, and is our head of AI right now. He was working for an AI company in Prague, and so we said, okay, let's go visit him in Prague and let's do the hackathon together. We do the Web3 stuff, you can do some AI stuff, let's see what we can do together. And we had this idea of, okay, what happens if we make people like send transactions, like actually build transactions from natural language. And that's what we did at the hackathon. We won a lot of prizes because, of course, it was the first project ever to do something like this. And we kept on working on it, and we've been working for the last almost 2 years right now. And yeah, that's a pretty basic intro.
Yeah, we've loved working with your team, honestly. And it's been, I think, one thing for the viewers to notice. There's trends and narratives in this ecosystem, such as the FEI, but Brian knows AI has been along well before that was a trend, and I've executed on it. It has been live for how long has Brian knows AI been live for actually?
We went through multiple stages. So we've done a private beta with a couple of hundred of users. Then we did a public beta, and then we released everything in production in July 2024 during ECC. So like official like V1 of Brian was launched in July, but the public one was launched in November 2023.
So well before all these narratives, a year and a half before all this AI trend, you're basically the guys that are the trendsetters, and people need to give you a bit more recognition, in my opinion. Yeah, but happy to give like a quick overview of Enso as well. So yeah, Connor Howard, the co-founder of Enso. Enso really is your shortcut to building on-chain applications. Developers that want to build on-chain products, they have to integrate many different blockchains, thousands of different smart contracts, build smart contracts to interact with them, wait for an audit slot, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on audits before you can even test your product and test your ideas. We have one customer called Unplug.io who's built a Zapier drag and drop automation tool using Enso. They built their integration suite over 7 months. And they were able to rebuild that in a day and a half with Enso. From 7 months to a day and a half. This is like hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, and also the most valuable currency in humankind, which is time. And we've been working with BrianKnowsAI since kind of the early days. I still remember how we met. We just saw you on Twitter, and I just sent you a message. And I remember I was in a train station, I think in Milan, somewhere in Italy, and I was calling you because we just love the idea. You know, I think it's one of the next steps of crypto, right? I was skeptical on AI a little bit like 8 months ago, right? 6 months ago, only for like my personal usage, i.e., I would always go to Google instead of using ChatGPT. I promise you, I'm so frustrated by Google now. Like I can't use it. Like it infuriates me. I can't get the answers I want quickly. So being able to go to ChatGPT and then ask something that's similar for, executing on chain with BrianKnow's AI, like instead of me going and doing all these manual operations and going to hunt like different interfaces, I can just go to one, and all of the underlying complexities of how to do it is completely abstracted away. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out that I'm an active user as well, because it makes my life easier, you know.
Yeah, and I can say that I'm an active user of Enso, of course, because since it powers a lot of the operations on Brian, we can say that all the people that are using Brian are also like active users of Enso as well. And it has helped us, as you said, really to speed up the development and to integrate like a lot of routes between different tokens and really easily. And maybe later we can go deeper into the architecture of how Brian works, because it's kind of different from the other AI projects. And yeah, so thank you as well for your service, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna like bring that up, that you guys were super early to that trend before it even was a trend. I don't know how you correctly pronounce it, like DeFi. I don't think no one really knows that well. So really props on that and all of that coming out of a hackathon. So what made you have this vision that people are now jumping onto? How did you see this so early?
So as I told you guys before, it started like as a just basically what's the coolest thing that you could do with AI and Web3 together. So having this friend that worked on AI and us working on Web3, the first thing that came up to our mind was, of course, sending transactions. Like, why do I need to go? Like, why do I need to know the website where I can swap that given token on that given chain, or to bridge? Why do I need to know that? And it was also the early days of ChatGPT and OpenAI, and so the idea like basically started from there. Like we said, what in reality the first idea that we had was actually to make the AI actively build the transactions themselves, so build the cold data of the transactions. But then after doing some research, and some research that we still do right now, we saw that that kind of approach was really risky. And because of course AI could hallucinate, as I mentioned, we were in the early stages of AI. There was, I think, only ChatGPT 3.5 at the time, and there was this revolution of a lot of people using ChatGPT, but of course the model was still rough. Like we didn't have the advancements that we have today, but we are still early on that kind of stuff. And so we decided to do basically, instead of focusing on building the transactions themselves, we said, but there are already products that basically do that, so that build transactions based on a given input and a given output, which is one of them is Enso, of course. And so we said, why instead of focusing on building the transactions on our own, we focus more on the natural language processing of what the user wants to do. So, and that is basically the main goal and what we work on at Brian. So we say that we are more an AI company rather than a Web3 company for this, because our ultimate vision is that we believe that 2 out of 3 of the transactions that will be executed on chain in the next 5 years will be executed via prompts, whether via users or via agents, so via text, basically.
How do you think we
That's
get to that point?
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt.
No, no,
How do you think we get there to 2 out of 3?
It's a vision that we have, and it's not that such a long shot, because it's not that we are saying 100%, but 2 out of 3 will be executed via prompt, whether it's via users or via natural language. And so we said, the best thing that we can do is not achieve and have that AI that is capable of building that given transaction and all the complex stuff. We need to focus on the user. So to simplify the user experience the most. And so we decided to focus on, okay, we need to make our system understand what the user wants to do. Whatever the user is going to write, so all the different ways that the user could ask for a swap, for a transfer, for a bridge, for whatever, we need to understand it. So that's basically our goal and our vision. So we want to offer the best way of interacting with on-chain for everybody, and however they type. Basically, that was the goal. And so we started working on this, on making it understand, of course, different prompts, different stuff, and we achieved basically the current status as of today. So
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it also ties in nicely how you can work with Enso. So you can just specialize on what you're good at, which is doing the natural language recognition, the intent recognition engine. And Enso provides what we're good at, just finding the routes, providing the DeFi actions. So you kind of have that split of tasks, so you can build faster and just focus on what you guys are good at.
it couldn't make, like, for us, it didn't make sense to rebuild something like Enso or like even others, but it didn't make sense for us to rebuild Enso or to rebuild other internet networks and stuff to focus on two different things. And so that's why we, like, the architecture of Brian is different from like other projects that are coming up right now, is because we had the time to study and to research and to analyze and to do a lot of stuff that a lot of projects that today are in this dev AI space didn't have the time to do, because the best solution, of course, is, like, for us, it's what we are doing. So recognizing the user prompt and then passing it to the best providers ever for that given prompt. So that's how AI and natural language can help users, agents, and whatever. And that also, of course, works with voice recognition as well, and all other cool stuff that you could do.
Do you envision a world where not only people doing text prompts, like you were saying, text, voice, but maybe in the future, like recognition of previous behavior? So do you envision like models creating like behavioral traits of people that use them, and then the agents being able to act on their behalf? So maybe, for example, if let's just say a protocol gets hacked, I always open up a leverage short against that protocol, right? That's like one of my previous prompts, and I've done that maybe like 2-3 times. Maybe if the AI can kind of, with through machine learning, learn that I withdraw my funds from Avi if the APY drops to a certain point and I move it somewhere else, and that APY is higher. Do you kind of see this? I don't know, is it like pattern recognition is creating a behavioral trait of the users using the AI model, and then it can start acting on its own? Like, do you see a future in that?
Of course, the like AI and like makes us like dream with a lot of stuff. Of course, like the everything is doable. That's one of my like main pillars in programming. I think that nothing is impossible and that everything is doable, and sometimes somewhere we will get to these dreams. And yeah, I think that it's something that can be done, of course. From a technical point of view, it's pretty hard, because of course you would need to have, at the current state, you would need to have a model that is trained on those given actions for any given user. So you would have like basically a spawn of, I don't know, indefinitely amount of models that know and are trained on the behavior of those given users. Or you could store the behavior of the users and then make it understand at runtime, but that it of course becomes really costly. So that there are still technical limitations, and I think at the same time it's good, because otherwise, like, AI can also become scary. And like for us at Brian, security has always been the first thing. So that's why we dropped the idea of, I don't know, letting the AI do everything. Or also that's why Brian itself, what we offer is a completely non-custodial solution, because at the end of the day, even if as of today Brian is almost 2 years old, we didn't have any bad like hallucinations and stuff, we are still not doing only like agentic stuff where I don't know, we store your private key, or we use other kind of managing of private key, or funds, is because AI can hallucinate, AI can be wrong. And us at Brian, we work on Rails, so everything, like, you cannot, for like Brian supports, for example, more than 20 actions. I think 25 different actions we support. And what does that mean is that you can only perform these actions. Like, if an action is not supported, you cannot do it. People can complain, of course. They come to us, they say, why don't you support this, why don't you support that, and maybe we can work on it. But why we only support those actions? Because we want to keep it on Rails. And having AI on Rails, coming back to your question, and not letting it do whatever he wants, means that, yeah, it's cool that a protocol gets hacked and he is able to recognize your pattern and stuff. But what happens if he hallucinates and thinks that a protocol gets hacked and withdraws all your funds? So that's the question. So that's why giving access to AI, to wallets, and not having it restricted to certain actions and to certain activities could be dangerous, in my opinion. So for me right now, it's only a security thing. So
No, it makes sense. I mean, you literally have all the capabilities to do it. It's just on that security model. I'm thinking, and I'm just riffing. Maybe we jump into the product. I want to show everyone Brian knows AI and so forth.
yeah.
I'm just, you're giving me thoughts and it's making me think. And see, for that to work, do you envision like an insurance marketplace for agents? So you can like buy insurance against what your agent was going to do. Like there could be a big market in that, ironically.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone is doing that. Do you?
No, I don't know if anybody's doing that, but the direction is that we, like, also as a brand, we also look at not only the Web3 space, but we also take a look at the Web2 space, of course, because we need to keep up with the AI stuff. And we see that there's also like these agents and stuff that it's coming not only to Web3. Like, we think, like, most of the people in Web3 think that we are the only ones doing, I don't know, DeFi stuff. And yeah, of course we are the only ones doing DeFi stuff, but we're the only ones doing I don't know, natural language stuff or chatting to do actions. But there are actually companies and startups outside of Web3 that are making you, I don't know, reservations on Airbnb, and I don't know, planning your trip and booking everything. So at the end of the day is that there's a revolution, I think, that it's coming, and this revolution will be more visible when everything will get on the mobiles. Because I think that when we will start getting like the first real assistants that do stuff, and of course there are huge competitors for that, for people that make phones, like Apple, for example, could use Siri to power this kind of stuff, but also Google with their phones. When this will happen is then when I think that the real AI revolution and will change basically how we behave in life. Because right now it's you that you need, for example, as I mentioned, to plan your trip or to do whatever. But in the future, someone will an agent will do that for you, and having insurance for that, for uh, particular reasons, it's really important. And actually, you made me realize that I was hosted. I was in a Twitter space, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned also this. Also, from a security point of view, something that is really important is that we need to start working on AI, and also towards verifiability of AI. And this is something that I will talk on related to Brian as well. Because imagine you have your agent. Let's not talk about DeFi. Let's talk about an agent that plans you the trip for your 2 weeks vacation. You want to know why he decided to book, I don't know, the Canary Islands instead of um, instead of Paris. Okay, it's something that you want to know. You need to know why the model, the agent has decided that. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to work on verifiability of agents and also responsibility. And that's where it comes in, like the insurance market that you were coming from, because someone needs to held accountant for this kind of operations. Because if an agent has access to my money and can book for me, and it books wrong or goes wild, or and that applies also as well to DeFi, what happens at the end of the day? Whose fault is this? So yeah, it could be an opportunity for it, I think.
So to everyone's listening, a new product idea if you're listening well.
Someone wants
Maybe. Let's see. I mean, AI is moving fast, and I feel like there have been so many changes just in the last 1 or 2 years, and it's already becoming part of our lives. I mean, everyone's using ChatGPT instead of Google because it actually is broken. So I feel like there are many use cases there that we're not really seeing yet. We do need to think about security as well. But yeah, I think it's good to hear that you and Brian are doing that. But yeah, we've been talking a lot about it, and I think it would be cool if users can see the product in action and
Yeah.
also how Enso is used underneath.
Yeah.
You know, and so we have a phrase called "ship it or shut it."
Yeah, let me
It's-
share just my
Which you are shipping all the time, you know?
yeah. Hopefully, can you see my screen? Yes.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
see.
So as I mentioned before, Brian is completely non-custodial. Right now, I'm signing a message on my wallet, and as you can see, I'm connected. We support on the app. We support basically all these chains that you see here. I'm not gonna count them, but also on the APIs, we support also Starknet and Solana as non-EVM. So basically,
You support Solana.
we support Solana and
Oh man,
Starknet as well. And
you need to push that more publicly.
and also we are adding the also bridges as well from and to Solana, so people will be able to bridge by prompting on Solana. So
Are you using
also
D bridge for that one?
what?
Are you using D bridge underneath for the
Yeah,
bridge?
we will
Okay,
be
okay.
using the bridge, yeah, and it's going to be launched soon. So in the app you can see basically the main functionalities. There's the Ask Brian, where you can ask information about different protocols and stuff and whatever. It's not related to this demo, but you can ask information about, I don't know, what is Uniswap, ERC20, about, I don't know, what is Base, how does an ERC20 token works, and stuff like that.
I'm
Then
wondering though if you're asking for something like an APY, does that fetch data through Enso?
no, right now, no. So that is something that I will talk about later. So
Okay.
yeah. But there's a lot of stuff that is coming to Brian. So then we have the send transactions, which will be the main part of the demo, of course. And so I will skip it right now. And then we have the deploy contracts. The deploy contracts is getting an update on the app. So actually you cannot generate smart contracts right now, but it's working on the API. And I will talk about later as well about the API. So going to the transaction part, here is where basically the magic happens, as we like to say. And here you can type basically swap 10 USDC for ETH, and here is where Brian is going to recognize the user intent. In this case, I want to swap 10 USDC for ETH. It recognizes that I am on ETH and is using Enso solver. We give all the information related to the swap, because again, as I mentioned, is completely non-custodial. Is something that I want to underline. So you can see all the contracts, who's going to send the transaction, which is the contract that you're going to interact with, and this should be the Enso router contract, and who's going to receive these tokens, the tokens that you are swapping, the amount you are getting. We give all the information out to the user, and that's for us is crucial, because it's for security reasons. Because if in the case that we generate a transaction that is wrong, you need to be able to have all the tools to be checking it, basically. And of course, I can confirm it. If I click on confirm, I don't have enough USDC in this case, so it's not going to run the transaction. If I go on base and I can rerun the same prompt, I should be able also to get the pop-up basically from my wallet and execute the transaction. So
Good question. What's the extent of the like if the user said USDC, but they put CUSD first instead? So instead of USDC, they said CUSD. And then do you also need to have like capitals, or can you do like higher
you
like
can do a lot of different stuff. Like a prompt that I like a lot that you can do on Brian, which is I don't is really amazing, which is like convert 10 USDC on base to 10 USDC on Arbitrum,
Okay.
which is
And
some
that word convert, does it need to be explicitly convert? Or you could
no,
be
no,
like
as you can see, like it and no, you can type whatever. Like this is just an example, which is a really nice prompt, and this means a bridge. So I
bridge.
want to bridge 10 USDC from base to Arbitrum basically. I'm actually, if I am a user that does not know like Web3, the knowledge, I come here and say, okay, I have 10 USDC on base. I want to convert them to 10 USDC on Arbitrum. And this actually works. So you can type almost everything, of course. You can express your intent, because that's the ultimate idea. So you can express your intent in many different ways. And us at Brian, our goal is to understand it the most. So
This is super powerful, and I think people shouldn't take for granted what Brian's done here because instead of crypto awareness, absolute echo chamber, and we're so normalized to absurd words such as bridge. Like, why do we need to use the word bridge? Like, I just want this token from that token. I want to convert or I want to transfer or
I want to
uh,
send, I want to,
send.
yeah,
Yeah, it's human language. So it's like you're making this more accessible to people that aren't in this echo chamber, so they can actually use this industry.
and
It's a small feature, but it's really valuable.
yeah, and that, like, our ultimate goal is that we are building this, of course, as well, to support voice recognition, because it's also for accessibility features, or also for having like wallet assistant in your phone. If you say something and maybe I don't know, you are driving in your car and you say, I want to, I don't know, you get a message from a friend that says, I don't know, this token is pumping. Okay, you just open your wallet, you just, while driving, which is something that you should not do. You should not use your phone while driving, but maybe you have your headphones on, I don't know. You can say swap 10, I don't know, 1000 USDC for X token. Okay, and being able to recognize what the user says in that context that maybe sound wrong is something that us at Brian, we are doing. Like, at the end of the day, we focus a lot on the UX and on the accessibility and on letting everybody be able to interact with Web3, because, as I mentioned before, in 2030 we believe that 2 out of 3 will be executed by natural language, and most, like, that 2 out of 3 will be mostly newcomers to our space, because those people will be interacting with the tools that we are building today. People will be interacting with Brian because they don't know what to do, they don't know the answers, they don't know the questions as well. Sometimes a lot of people don't know the questions of stuff, don't know what to do, and they can just come in and type something. Of course, what we have right now at Brian, you still need to have a little bit of knowledge, of course, because you need to know the chains. It's kind of, as I said, it's you need to specify the prompt. Like, if for example, I say like swap
Yeah,
10 USDC, okay, it's missing context. So, for example, it says that it's missing the second token right now, and you need to rewrite the entire prompt. So what we're working at Brian right now, which is one of our upcoming features, is instead on a more chat-like based experience, where you can chat actually, and this chat is going to be able to also maintain the context of what you were asking for. You will be able to search for market data, which is something that is coming and it's already ready, it just needs to be shipped. So people will be able to search for market data and say, okay, what is the protocol that has the most APY on base right now? And then I don't know, or maybe what are the top 5 protocols by API or by APY on base, and then say, okay, deposit 100 USDC on the first one, and or maybe deposit 100
And
USDC on all of them, and you will get all the transactions. So
you're using that with Enso as well. So not only in the execution, you're also using it on the data side, right? So
yeah,
you're
we
using,
want to we want to aggregate data questions of users, information as well coming from Twitter, like what does Connor from Enso think about Brian? People will be Our ultimate goal is to have an ultimate platform.
When does he do the next bungee
Yeah,
jump?
when does Connor is going to do the next bungee jump? Our idea is to create not only an app, because what you see is an app, and then I will jump to the real core of Brian, but an API for a lot of different projects that want to integrate this kind of stuff. Because what I'm trying to
sorry to interrupt you, can you please integrate perps in this? Like, whilst you were talking, all I was thinking about, there's so many shit coins that I love to leverage perp. Like, it's short, right? I've leveraged short Luna 2 days before the full crash. It was actually great. I leveraged short FTX token.
yeah,
And I would love, no joke, I would love to literally be walking and just have this concept in my mind and just go to Brian and just do a voice and just go, open up a 50K 25x leverage short on X token, and you handle all of that in the background. Like, I genuinely would be a super user of that.
So
Really, really.
just to give you the why it's not there, it's because it's not because it's hard to do, of course, because it's just a new action. The problem that we see, and it's something that we do not want, is that the fact that when you open a leverage position, most of the times you want to also be to have updates on it, of course, because there's people that open leverage and then they just stare at the screen and they want to see the trading view going up and forth, and then they close it, they open. So the main part is why we don't support is that we also would need to give you constant updates of this kind of stuff, we believe, as a product. And for us, we didn't do it, but in the future it's something that we would like to add, is also as well leverage trading. So
Makes sense.
it's just because we think that
I
most
think
of
maybe
you
something for the long run, but I feel like, yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah, it's something that we always wanted to do. Also, us, we also love to go on leverage sometimes, but the problem, it's not a problem. It's the fact that products that offer leverage trading are better than Brian because they have all the visual stuff. Like, we can be better off at opening the position and closing the position, but you cannot monitor it. So you don't know, maybe if you want to close it earlier or if you want to go more. So that kind of part of leverage trading uh, will be missing. So I don't know if
It's a fair comment, man, but I still think you'd be able to like send a link to view it and then they could view it. And I think you would actually, you'd probably help people to be better traders so they don't just stare at this chart. Like, they have a conviction bet of making a leverage short, then they get scared half an hour later and they close it. I've done that many times. With your tool, actually, you're enforcing some barriers, which is good.
just send it. Yeah. There's we are talking internally about this, and there's a lot of people, of course, that are asking for this kind of stuff, and I just wanted to give you the reason why it's not still there. But of course, as you said, we can give the link, but that it would be also more something like mobile, like it's something more like app wise. While instead at Brian, as I mentioned, we are also a lot really focused on the API as well. The
But
last time,
what's the point? Sorry to keep interrupting you, man, but I think what's the point?
The points, yeah, the points is right now we are running a points system, a prompt to earn program on Brian, where basically you can prompt and earn points. And why we are doing this, because some what we are doing at Brian is not only like working on the app and working on the APIs, but actually we are also releasing models, open source models for Web3. We actually released the first version of a domain specific model for Web3. It is available on Hugging Face, and it's not production ready because it needs to be instruct tuned, but people can take it, can play with it, and we are going to release basically other 4 different models as well that everybody will be able to use, because as I mentioned will be open source, and one of them is going to be trained on the prompts that the users are currently doing right now. So that's why also at the start I said that we, as at Brian, we are more of an AI company, because our next biggest update basically is going to be these models. Like we are going to be working on AI models for everybody. And why would we as a company do something like this is because we think that there's not enough, like there's a lot of competition in the Web3 AI space, and we think we are the, like we do not want to be in the middle of the competition, but not because we are scared, but because we think that technology does not thrive in competition. Technology thrives in collaboration. And what we can do as a company with our expertise, what we can do is train these models. We are going, of course, to use them in our API and in our infrastructure. Of course, we are going to be serving them via APIs, and people will be able to pay for them in case they don't want to host them, and so on. But at the end of the day, what we want is that we want people to take these models, train them for their particular use case. Maybe Connor wants to do is model that it's like trains on all his actions every 2 hours. He follows his wallet and gets trained on his actions, so he will be able to do it because we are going to be releasing this model. Why that is so important is because Web3, like people think that ChatGPT, DeepSeek, all these models are enough. Okay, the problem with these models is that specific domains are underrepresented in the pre-training data. What does that mean? Is that if you imagine like the whole amount of data that has been given to OpenAI, Web3 is a droplet in the ocean. Okay, that there are a lot of models in different spaces that have been trained on specific domains, like for example Astro ML3, which is a domain-specific model trained on um, astronomic stuff, space stuff, and it's a 8 billion parameter model that outperforms ChatGPT 4, and it's a model that you can run on your MacBook. So you basically get zero costs. You get privacy at the same time, because of course you do not need to send your data. Imagine the same use case, but for healthcare. For healthcare, you can have domain-specific models trained on healthcare, and then those domain-specific models can be instruct-tuned, and people can run them on their own nodes or on their own laptops. And there's a huge space which is not being seen by the Web3 world, but is actually something that people in the Web2 world are working on, which are domain-specific models.
Hey, break that down. Break this down even more. So, one, what does that mean for Web3? And two, are you doing it?
Yeah. So what does that mean is that we are going to be releasing the, which we already did actually, we released, and we're going to keep on working on this domain specific model, which means that which is a model trained on Web3 data, which means scraped articles, market data, posts from Twitter, all of this kind of stuff. So it's going to be knowledgeable of, like he's like the concentration of data which is being trained on of Web3 becomes higher. So he's called, of course, domain specific, because the what he knows best is going to be the Web3 world. What is outside of Web3 world is going to perform worst, of course. Nobody, I'm not here saying that this model or the Astro ML3 lab, the Astro ML3 model is going to perform better than ChatGPT on general tasks. But on astronomic stuff or on Web3 stuff, domain-specific model and small language models, which are not large language models, domain-specific small language models outperform larger models almost on every task on their domain. So that's huge
Every
because
time, one thing. Every time I speak to you, man, like you always drop some serious alpha. Like I
there is
don't think you.
though that there is public information available. So
No, I was just gonna say as well, like I feel like I'm learning so much about AI models right now.
Exactly.
Than
we
before.
actually have an article which is available on our Twitter profile. I think it should be pinned. There's an article on our model that and on our model and on domain specific models and on what we want to do, because that is really important that people know this kind of stuff, because people get excited when they see yeah, DeepSeek, yeah, but then when you try and use DeepSeek, you have the same problems that you have with OpenAI, you have the same problems that you have with Grok, and the solution for that is training models. Like that's the how AI started, that's how like machine learning started actually, and that's how we'll always be. And you have these really amazing models, and these models are really like, and when I'm talking about amazing models, I'm talking also about like DeepSeek R1 is an amazing model, it's a reasoning model, and you can do a lot of crazy stuff with this model because they are really good at reasoning, but they do not really know well domain specific stuff. So for example, as at Brian as well, something that we released and we will be working on as well is a multi-agent framework where you have small language models, and also people will be able to build this.
What do you mean they'll be able to build it? Like somebody can come along and contribute to the network?
The network is something that will be coming even later. That is not the network yet. So what I'm talking about is that we already released the first POC of a multi-agent framework, which is completely autonomous and does not need any user input, and it works using Brian basically as an external agent. But what we want to do is take it to the next step. When we will have these models, we are going to be training models for a lot of different stuff, not only for the use cases of Brian, but you could create, like you could get the domain specific model, you could fine tune it on, I don't know, prediction of prices of tokens, whatever. You have your small language model, and you have all these little small language models that send the information to the bigger, I don't know, DeepSeek R1 or the ChatGPT O1 that they are really good at reasoning, but they are not good at what the smaller language, like the vertical smaller language models, can do. And so basically, you gather this information, you send it to the reasoning model, it does all the reasoning, and then you get the output, which is, I don't know, performs a particular action, buy that token, sell that token. That there's a lot of amazing stuff that you can do with these models, and people are not getting it because, of course, people are really attached to like to more of the easy stuff, to releasing products that, okay, you have your AI agent, you can type your stuff and it works, it swaps your tokens, you can buy our token, you can stake it and whatever. But at the end of the day, like the core contribution that we need to do as real developers is to work on this kind of stuff, and we can only work on this together. And that's
I
why we want
agree.
to release them open source, and people will be able to contribute with data as well. People will be rewarded with data, people will be rewarded for computation, for training this model, for fine-tuning them. So there's a lot of stuff that we are starting to do more on the open source contribution, because we think that if we all start getting inside our small barriers and working on our apps and saying, yeah, mine is better because I have 2 chains more than you, or mine has this action more than you, at the end of the day, nobody's going to go forward, and we will only have like these identical apps, because the
Yeah.
Brian app, of course, is similar to all the other apps that are starting to pop up right now. Even if it's older, we can say for ages that, yeah, Brian was the first one, but at the end of the day, for the user, it doesn't matter. What it matters is at the end of the day, for us, who's going to contribute to the ecosystem, and that's where us Brian we want to place. That's why we focused a lot on the API for other projects to integrate Brian, because we do not want to be that app that does that thing. We want to be your provider. We want to be, as Brian, as our ultimate goal, we want to be the main, like we want to be recognized for our work on the AI and Web3 field. We do not want to be recognized for our app, or for because
Yeah.
I don't know, because our token is pumping or stuff. We want to be recognized for that kind of work. Nobody's going to do it so we need to do it.
I think
think
it's great
these-
that you focus so much on like collaboration compared to competition. I think that's a great approach. We actually do have only 10 minutes left and a lot of questions. So I think we can get into those shortly.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say is that collaboration part is really, really insightful and valuable, right? So one thing I wanted to ask you is how has Enso made your life easier building your product from maybe infancy to now? Like, has Enso supported on that journey? Has it made your time a lot easier to be able to focus on what really matters?
Yeah, that's you basically responded to the question yourself. Like, um, as you see, as I said, we focus a lot on AI stuff. So, like for us, we do not have the time to focus on working on also as well all the Web3 stuff, and so that's why Enso was really valuable for us, because we could basically not discover, uncover a lot of new actions for the user, a lot of new routes, shortcuts, intents, let's call them whatever we want. We were able to
Shortcuts. They're
shortcuts,
not intents, they're shortcuts.
shortcuts. We were able to uncover all of these shortcuts to the users via natural language using Enso. And for us, of course, it's amazing because, okay, we are working on the AI. We need some help on the Web3 side because we cannot focus on both, and focusing on two things at the same time, you make both wrong. So that's why we decided to focus on the AI, and then so has helped us a lot because we were able to add swaps, deposits, withdrawals, and a lot of amazing stuff and amazing routes for users, and also really cheap and fast. And that's why basically.
And since so we always like to improve as a company, you know, the listeners, for those who don't know, we had to pivot Enso 2 times. And kind of this infrastructure we built really was to solve our own problems. So question I have to you is what's something that Enso's not doing good at that should, and what feature are we currently missing? And you can be honest, don't worry.
No, yeah, I'm thinking from a like, because the integration with Answer is really simple. So it's hard to like to see problems on that kind of part, because of course you just call an API. Like for our point of view, since us we are non-custodial, we basically forward watch what you send to us basically. So the integration is so smooth and so easy that there's really not so much that I would like say that does not work. Like
What
of
about what was missing? What's missing that would be a nice feature that you would use? And then we'll jump to questions. Yeah.
yeah, and a nice feature I would say like adding. I think that's the non-EVM chains. I think that they are the more difficult ones. Also for us, that we do not focus a lot on Web3 as well, like having multiple options, having the being able to connect with also these non-EVM chains, mainly Solana and Starknet. I think that it's something that could be helpful for us at Brian. So I'm talking about our company.
Makes sense. Should we jump into the questions, Leon?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me just check. The first one is a good one. Who is Brian and why did you name it that way?
So that's a question that we named a lot. So there's no Brian. So basically, Brian is just it's brain basically. but we didn't want to make the joke brain with the AI, okay, because everybody was doing it. So we said, why don't we just swap the letters and call it Brian, because it's a personal name, so it's something that you would give to an AI assistant, basically. And then there's the BrianKnows, which is a joke related to Simon Says, to the game Simon Says. So instead of Simon Says, it's BrianKnows, basically.
That's good alpha.
That's why
Mm.
it's called
Yeah, and
Brian.
it makes sense. Like you talk to your AI assistant Brian, it makes it more personal.
Yeah, that's why. And there's this like pun joke, I don't know, of the Brian knows Simon Says, basically.
You can easily memify this. You should memify this more.
Yeah, we do not spend a lot of money on marketing. I don't know if if that's clear, if you can see it.
You want to share what Enso means, Connor?
Okay, good question. Good lore for people. So Enso was initially called on-chain.finance. That was the first ever name. And then it was called Bodhi, Bodhi. Bodhi represents the tree where the Buddhist monk sat under and got enlightened and enlightenment. And I thought creating a company is kind of going through that process, and Enso's a tool that creates this enlightenment. And then our CTO, Peter, one day he was like, I really like the name Enso, but the name Enso is already taken. There's so many companies called Enso. And what Enso really means is finding beauty in the imperfections, that every single person and every single thing is unique. And it really represents kind of what Enso is as of today. So Enso is an engine that allows you to build the product that you want to build without needing to focus on all these little caveats of fetching data on chain or all the on-chain execution. And it is a real fundamental representation of kind of why we built this tool, was allowing people to build what they want. And Enso is a circular motion, it's like Buddhism and so forth. But it's that's kind of the lore around Enso. Yeah,
Pretty
it's a
nice.
good question. Whoever asked that, yeah, it's there's always lore. People don't ask this stuff usually, you know.
Yeah, and it's nice. It gives some like context around it. Really, it's interesting. Okay, what else do we have? What about arbitrage? Someone's asking, would it be possible to set Brian up like that?
So Brian, so we only show the API, like the app, sorry, but actually we have an API which is freely accessible, and Brian can be used to set up arbitrages, of course, and stuff like that. If you want to build for, I don't know if it's something related to like building an agent that is capable of doing arbitrage trading, but of course you could do it with Brian, because our API, that's why I was saying before, for users and agents, our API is text based. So there's no like strange stuff coming in. You just send the address, the chain, which is optional. So you send the address of the agent, you send the action that the agent wants to do, and you could build, for example, an arbitrage bot or an arbitrage agent.
Do you think with the new feature, like where it has more context and also can fetch data, it would be possible for Brian to find strategies for you that you can then execute?
That's a pretty nice question. And that comes to a huge problem that there is in Web3, which is a data problem and real-time data problem. So I would say no right now, just because having like to do arbitrage, you need to have almost real-time information always, and that is something that we do not have for a lot of data. Not and when I say we, I don't say us at Brian only. We say everybody in Web3. Like real-time data, it's something that it's really hard to have, and so no. But I hope in the future, yes. If we
Makes sense.
achieve like having the data to the second or to the last 5 seconds, you could build something like this to arbitrage even while chatting as well.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, we already talked about security, but another person is asking, if you do on-chain activities, how do you ensure asset security?
So we
I can say from the Enso side.
Yeah.
So like the call data you get back, maybe that's So I take security and the whole team takes security really, really seriously in Enso. Maybe a bit over the top, but I think it's better to be safer than sorry in these circumstances. Whenever you're handling billions of dollars of users' funds, hundreds of thousands of users, great projects like BrianKnowsAI AI that's really fully reliant upon our infrastructure for particular actions. So we've done 7 audits so far. We've spent north over 900K on audits, just on audits alone. One that kind of gives that smart contract security to some degree. It's the best practice that we can really do on the smart contract side. It doesn't imply that it's going to be always safe, but again, that's why we do intermittent audits. That's why we do many different types of auditors and many different audits themselves. The other element, once a request has been made, so once you go to BrianKnowsAI and you say, hey, I want to deposit on Avi with USDC, that request is then sent to Enso. In the background, Enso's combining all these different actions together into one transaction. People call this call data. And at that point, once the call data is being generated, we simulate this on 2 different tools. One, an internal tool and an external tool. The word choice of simulation, we basically create a replica blockchain. Literally, we create a whole new blockchain, copying the main chain state, putting it on a new version, and then running that call data on this new blockchain to see what would happen. Does it pass? Does it fail? Is there any malicious call data that's been added? And then once it passes 2 individual calls, then we pass back itself to the user itself. So this is how we ensure security.
Yeah, if I can add something on the Brian side, on top of all the security of
All right. Seems like we're back again.
I think we were just going through the security side. Do you want to take it away?
yeah, adding on top of what you were saying, all on top of like the whole security that Enso provides, and that's why also we chose Enso as one of our main partners, is on Brian being non-custodial, you need to confirm the action. So at the end of the chain of all the security steps that Enso has taken, all the security that Brian has taken, because also as we check, for example, for all the tokens, we check for the amounts, we check for everything as well before sending it to our providers, and we check the information also back again. So we also do a lot of security on top. We do a lot of security on the model itself and on the intent recognition itself. On top of all of this chain of security, then you also need to confirm. So that's basically how we handle security. We rely a lot on partners that take care of security, and then we also apply security, making the model and the intent recognition part on Rails, and securing all the tokens, all the informations, all the addresses, all this kind of stuff is taken care by us and by our partners. And then you need to confirm the action, so you need to double click, you need to confirm it on your wallet. So you can always check it as well. You can re-simulate it if you use a wallet like Rabbi and stuff. So you are
So
always,
users are safe, assets are safe.
yeah.
Another question we got. Sorry,
Yeah.
do you want to add something?
I said prompts are safe. It was just
Prompts are safe, yeah. Depends what the user ends up doing with it. Okay, so another question is, if it gets partially trained on user data, how do you prevent the AI hallucinating?
So if you get, so the fact is that the more you train it on specific, like if you train it on, if you instruct unit on, which means basically for the people listening that do not know what instruct tuning is basically getting a model and training it on a specific task, on a specific action. So for example, it could be instruct tuning it for question and answering. So there are a lot of models. There are QA models that are trained on getting the question and getting the response for that given question. So the more you train it on user data, the more diverse, of course, the data that you provide it is, and there's a lot of study and analysis on quality of data and benchmarks that you need to do you can reduce the hallucinations. And then the fact is that when you do all of this stuff, you already reduce the hallucinations. Then what you can do is you can prevent the hallucinations after. So that's why I was saying that what we do is really in, like, why we do not let the AI perform itself the generation of transactions and stuff like that, is because we had this step of checking the information, and that's where we prevent the hallucination. So it can happen, but if it happens, we block it basically, and we just say, I don't know, there was an error, try again. Okay, so something like this, and that's how you prevent it. But if this step is missing, you could get, for example, you want to swap on base, and then I don't know, the AI hallucinates and changes base with I don't know, Polygon, and then you get a transaction for Polygon. We do a check in the middle to prevent this kind of stuff. And as of today, as I mentioned, it has never happened, but it's something that needs to be always in mind, I think.
Okay, yeah, thanks for answering this. We have another one related to AI. So what would stop any AI company to essentially train a model on a specific niche?
It doesn't. It doesn't stop.
Nothing, right? Yeah.
I'm really glad. I would be really glad if someone takes the models and starts training them on a specific niche. It's actually what we want to do. Like when we started building Brian, our idea of the API was for people building all the apps like the Brian apps on top of it. Like we want people to get and have and use our API, use our models. Like we don't care. Like we want, it's not just because we are focusing a lot on the UX, and people are better at building apps than us, most likely. They are better at doing, I don't know, at building mobile wallets. They maybe are better. They already have users. Us, we do not need to recreate a new wallet. So, and that's why we want to give the option to everybody. And if someone gets the model and trains it on a specific niche, that's amazing. That is something that I would like to see. I mentioned it one before, for example, for prediction pricing on token model on token pricing. Sorry, that would be something insane that I would like to see trained, instruct-tuned on our domain-specific model. I would love to see that. And all the other ideas that people will come up to, we are really glad, and we would love to see our models being instruct-tuned on all different niches and stuff. And if the question is more general, like what would stop any AI company to train on a specific niche, is that the AI companies are the if you're talking about like the bigger ones like OpenAI and DeepSeek, they are fighting each other to make the bigger models. So they do not care about your specific niche. Like they want to, their goal, like OpenAI, like DeepSeek, and all these companies, their goal is to build the biggest, hugest. Can I swear on this live or no? Okay, the biggest fucking model ever. Okay, that's their ultimate goal, like the one that is going to control us. And so they do not care about the specific niche. The specific niche is for whoever has that problem. In this case, for us, it's in Web3. For Astro ML, it's for astronomic stuff. For healthcare, is another model, and so on and so forth. And people and AI companies are doing this. It's just that in our echo chamber of Web3, we think that we are the only ones doing this kind of stuff, but that's 100% wrong. Also, agents, as I mentioned before, it's 100% wrong. So AI companies are already doing so.
Yeah, makes sense. I think the first point you mentioned also comes back to that collaboration aspect, and each project focusing on what they're good at and then combining this into one great product for the end user.
Yeah. Also, just another idea. Someone takes the model and trains a model for I don't know, transaction simulating, or to understand transaction call data. Like you could do infinite kind of stuff, but we need the models. We need the foundations, and we want to lay them, and we're going to lay them.
All right, we have one last question for the Enso side, how can users provide feedback or suggestions to Enso, and how does the development team handle this feedback?
That's a great question, actually. No, if you're a community member, you can just join our Discord. The Discord link is on our website. You can join there, you can give some suggestions, purely just put it in the chat. We're a very open and transparent team, if you can't tell. Then if you're a developer itself that also wants something to be changed, simply go into docs and there's a support link to a Telegram channel. And that has over 270 builders that are using Enso as of today. And they ask questions, you can ask questions there, and then the team will simply just respond to you and say, hey, we can add this, or we can't add this. Kind of our view, if you want a protocol added in to be available through Enso that we don't already have, we'll just add it for you. Like there's no issue. So pretty much just write it and then we'll see what we can do.
Sounds good. I think that was our last question. Yeah, we already have the banner here. If you want to learn more about Enso or BrianKnows, you can follow the Twitter accounts at Enso Build and at BrianKnowsAI. Any last comments you guys want to share before we wrap it up?
No, I just would like to say, let's keep building like cool stuff, and let's talk less, I guess, about other like I really follow like I know Connor, and so I know like how important it is to actually build and to do stuff rather than just talking. So that's something that us and me personally, but also all our team at Brian is really focused on. That's why we do not have a token yet, for example. It's because we focus before on building the product and not launching a token, and then maybe someday, hopefully, releasing a beta version of something that does not work. So just guys, for all the ones that are listening, if you are builders, keep building, build using Brian, build using Enso. It's pretty simple. One line, you basically can integrate Enso. One line, you can integrate Brian. So just keep building, focus on products, focus on what really matters, and then the rest will come. I would just share a personal story, which is related to AI in Web3. When we started doing AI and Web3 together, we talked to a lot of people. We talked to VCs, we talked to important people, and all the people were saying, "No, you are crazy. It's impossible. It's stupid to have AI to generate transactions." And we heard a lot of stuff coming from a lot of people. Did we care? No. What is the current status? A lot of people are building the same thing that we built for years. So if you have an idea, if you have a dream, if you have a project, a product, just keep on working on it. And someday, if you keep on working on it, you will get recognition and you will get rewarded for that.
I don't have anything to say. I think this is perfectly said. I agree with everything you said, 100%.
Yeah, some great final words. Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone for listening, and also our speakers. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Thank
See you
you.
next
Bye-bye.
one.
Guys.